Right.
And he was asked about the tariffs, and he was asked about the tariffs on American milk, for example, like it's 275%. Except he left out the part where that's if they go over quota, and they've never come close to going over quota. So, if you're going to be our representative, you better know all the rules of the game. And, my guess, you saw that he took back the tariff against electricity, and I think that's because someone probably explained to him, all the gas plants that make electricity in Ontario, yeah,
Right.
they run on natural gas from the Midwest United States. So, so
Well,
if he screws with their electricity, they're going to screw with our natural gas,
this
right?
reminds
Like,
me, yeah, it reminds me about 1930s
you
depression.
can't make this stuff up.
Yeah. Now, what happened in 1930s, the depression? At that time, the president of US at that time decided to put 38.5% tariff. And that led to disaster for the whole global. And this is where one was the greatest depression in the history.
Right.
And not sure exactly why he's too much pumped on Canada more than Mexico or more than China or any other country, but here we are. But one thing I'm happy with, I hopefully it's not a political thing. I hope our next prime minister will be Mark Carney, handle somebody like Donald Trump.
Well, I'm a little nervous about Mark Carney personally.
I like him because I followed him for a long time since he was the deputy governor, then governor of Bank of Canada's governor. Then he went to UK, and what he cleaned up the mess, and his portfolio, his education appears to be a lot more solid of a negotiation power, and he's very supple.
Oh, no one's questioning his intelligence or his expertise.
Right?
My concern is that he's a World Economic Forum devotee, and so he's more committed to the rest of the planet, keeping us broke, and not Canada first would be my concern.
You're right. At the same time, what is your second best choice?
By the way, that was not an endorsement of Pierre Polyev. It
Right?
was I wouldn't vote for anybody who was devoted to the World Economic Forum.
I understand. I met Pierre Poliver. I asked him a couple of questions, and if we look at the credentials point of view, we need to bring somebody to put everything as a united Canada and handle this whatever the challenges we have because everybody's nervous about everything. We could lose a lot of jobs in Ontario because Ontario and Quebec is the manufacturing hub of Canada, and so is our the rest of the resources. So it makes us a little bit more. I think now we might all have to figure it out eventually. I mean, we are a small voice, but uh, if you notice that the word average Canadian is start looking into a recession, that's a bit scary.
Well, I don't. If you want to be scary, check out how many Canadians looked up porn or midget porn or
Okay.
right. I mean, I think
Okay.
there's a I think there's a whole bunch of scary things on the internet.
All right. No,
I'm the first one to say that politics is a whole lot more complicated today than it ever was.
right.
I think that the only thing scarier than the candidates are the civil servants who are supposed to serve them. Uh, we don't have government pays crappy. You know, someone asked me once if I'd ever want to be prime minister of Canada, and I said I didn't want the cut in pay. Uh, right, I mean it, and the personal scrutiny is horrible. So I'm not volunteering to take the job. I'm not saying I'm even qualified for the job, but I think anybody who is qualified for the job is probably shying away because, you're not going to get treated well.
Fortunately, you're right. Any opinion from Randy or Jyoti or even Jerry Hogenhout?
Um, I didn't quite get the question. What was the question?
Question is what's happening right now? Are we heading toward a recession or depression with this all the tariff wars and what's going to happen to real estate industry or Canada as a whole?
It looks like it may be recession, hoping not. But even Trump is acknowledging the fact that he could be heading for recession. So just hoping that that doesn't happen.
Well, if we look at the numbers from the stock market, it doesn't look that good.
For sure.
It's pretty depressing, and it seems like there's too many things happening, too much chaos, and let's see what happened. Jerry, what do you think of it?
Where do I start? I don't know. I'm doing taxes here. I don't know. If I chime in here, I'm gonna mess up this tax return. It's I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, where listen, there's going to be a recession. Interest rates are, they're good. Here, you want a positive spin on this? Our interest rates are going to
Yes,
stay low.
yes.
There we
Go
go.
ahead.
Our
Go
interest
for
rates
it.
are going to stay low. There you go. There you go. We're going to have so much inflation that they got to keep our interest rates low so we can all go out and buy real estate at cheap prices. How's that?
Absolutely, you're right.
That's a good one.
Hopefully they drop the interest rate tomorrow morning by half a point.
Yeah, tomorrow. I hope so. I'm just going through two CMHC refis, so I'm just crossing my fingers that the interest goes down again tomorrow. So,
all right. Anything from Randy?
Could happen, and I agree with everybody so far. And I've got lots to say when it's my turn. So,
all right.
there you go.
All right. Let's
keep her quiet now and let her turn her loose soon.
All right. Okay, let's get cracking. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our monthly meeting. We have been holding this meeting for a very long time. We never miss it. And compliments to you. It's all courtesy of you. It's all about you guys and all about all those special people right here who are the panelists who everyone bring a lot of very helpful information for you. So just let you know this is strictly for information and educational purposes. There is no professional advice unless otherwise you hire somebody, then you seek their advice accordingly. So what is happening? A lot of people are sitting on the fence, and there are a lot of opportunities out there. People have been sitting on the fence last from 3 years, and now a lot of buyers are waiting. Interest rate to drop, prices to drop, but this is a dip, you can call it. It is your call. If you are interested in picking up a piece of property or two, make sure it has a positive cash flow. If you can get good long-term financing for 5 to 7 years, around 2.5%, 3%, I think you could be in for a good stuff. All right. So we're gonna move into some of the stuff. Ontario, last 3 years, Ontario is bleeding. A lot of people leaving. Why is that? Simply the house prices, we still have it, believe it or not, and the cost of living. A lot of Canadians have left the country. About 81,000 or 82,000 people have left Ontario alone. And this is maybe not good as a whole, but again, this is what it is. That's what it is, though.
Well, I don't think they're just I don't think they're just leaving Ontario. I think they're leaving Canada. I mean,
okay.
no, but I mean, seriously,
I
if you
agree.
look at demographics, right, you've got a whole bunch of people, my age or older, who are saying, look, I have enough. If I sell my house today for pick a number, $7, $8, $900,000, I have this tax-free lump of cash. I move to Costa Rica. I buy something for $300,000, and I've got 600 grand to invest at 7% to make 42 grand a year. Add CPP and old age pension, and all of a sudden they're making median household income in Canada.
Okay, Jonathan, You mind if I ask you if you can simply introduce yourself to all the investors here? Who
Sure.
you are?
My name is Jonathan Weaver. I'm in the attainable housing business. I own 2 land lease communities and work with 6 others.
Tell me a bit more about your background. We have known each other for a long time.
My background is varied and
Okay.
checkered. I was born at a young age. I grew up in Kapuskasing, Ontario. For those who don't know where that is, get on Highway 11. When you get to Barrie, stay right on Highway 11. When you get to North Bay, you have 6 more hours to go. So I grew up where it's cold. I live now here in Southern Ontario. I had a career as a business consultant for about 22 years. In 2007, my wife and I decided to take a year off and play golf and raise money for charity for a year. And when I got back, I became a mortgage agent and ended up working with a financial institution where I learned about debt stacking and more financial literacy. In 2007, I bought my first land lease community, and I grew it from less than 200 units to 400 units. So I've got 400 customers who pay me rent, and then I invested in a second park in Gravenhurst, Ontario, and I'm a dealer or a registered dealer for 5 factories making manufactured homes. So I sell to I sell to other park owners. I work with people who have land. So I talk to a real estate agents like Randy. And so when Randy has a customer who says, I want to sell a vacant lot, I suggest that why don't we joint venture? I'll put a building on it, whether that's townhouses or 2-story buildings or even a low-rise apartment building. We can deliver product to make it more valuable. So that's the business I'm in. It makes me a little bit stranger than most because I'm not a banker, although I worked with a financial institution to create Canada's only self-directed RDSP, Registered Disability Savings Account. But Randy knows me from my consulting business, and when I used to put Nightingale Conant speakers on stage and best-selling authors to help business owners make more money.
You are the one who started promoting Brian Tracy and a lot of American speakers in Canada.
Yeah, I was Brad Tracy's Canadian business partner for 17.
All right. Well, this is our friend Jonathan Weaver. He's gonna be giving and sharing his part of wisdom. He's been around for a long time. And one more thing about Jonathan Weaver, I think he has played golf on almost every golf course in Europe and North America. Jonathan? Okay, I think he.
Sorry, I missed that question.
I said, where have you played golf so far?
Oh, I just got back from Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and Thailand.
All right, and you're playing golf
for the
there.
last month. But yeah, I was on a golf vacation. Played 16 rounds of golf in 30 days.
All right. I'm gonna want a feedback from all of you, if you can. Where do you think the interest rates are going for next whole year?
They say they're coming down.
No, David is in Mexico today, Mexico, and he won't be in tonight.
Okay, he's the expert on mortgage rates.
Yeah,
But
well,
it seems that they're going to be coming down, at least for some time.
Yes, I do believe that the next decline is coming tomorrow morning, maybe quarter point or half a point, but definitely in April. And I do believe that interest rate may gonna hit almost 2% by the end of the year, unless otherwise something changes dramatically, though. Just thought I should just share with you. Something for a lot of Canadians to think about it. What are the home prices and where are your salaries? How the home prices have gone up dramatically. As I always mention, if you bought a house in 1969 and onward, 550 year onward, your house price have gone up 8% compounded per year. So that has made more money than your salary or anything else. As a matter of fact, in Toronto, if you bought a house in 2019 or 2018, in last, I think 3 or 4 years, your house has made about $1 million for you, tax free. So that's a big advantage. So you want to talk more about it, talk to Randy Goodman. She is the real estate broker and the expert when it comes to investing in real estate. So bidding wars are back in Toronto, not everywhere, but in some areas. Some areas, people are underbidding it. Some people, it's harder to move, but market is still moving. And I'd like to share some information with you. So there's a real brokerage called Wahi. Based upon them, there are certain area where people are paying above the market, which is 31%, at asking price 4%, below is 65% as a whole. People are still underbidding, but there are some areas where the market is substantially in higher demand. So what are these markets? Where are they? So these are the areas where it's Leslieville, Westbrook, St. Clair West, Bradford, Hotwood, of course, and West Shore. If you look at all these areas, average price is above 100,000 to about 176,000. These are based upon all the facts of February. On the other hand, there are areas in Toronto where they are not doing that well, whether it's East Lake Oakville, whether it's Mississauga, Southwest Oakville, North Shore Hogs Hollow, and Forest Hill. And again, this is how the market is. And in any area you want to go in, please check with your real estate broker or talk to Randy Goodman. She'll be happy to guide you through this area. Mortgage arrears, that's bad news though. A lot of Canadians are defaulting. And there are some options. And I suggest that you speak to David Grossman or speak to Randy Goodman. She might be able to help you out. Again, there is uncertainty in this market, which is more or less creating all this situation right here. Bankruptcies are still not slowing down, quite pretty high. It is more or less reminding us about what happened in 2009, that the global financial crisis. But again, there are opportunities in between, though. For the house price will go up in the US. Well, here's the deal. Canada provides most of the lumber. Mexico provides most of the drywall. And China sent a bunch of your appliances. So it appears to be that an average in US, if they build a new home, it will cost them $10,000 to $40,000 per house. Indirectly, average American family will be paying more because of these tariffs altogether. Though. Again, we will see as the cookie crumbles. Moving forward, here is some of you are from Calgary. There are 82 properties where people are unable to pay the property taxes. They're going to go up in auction. The auction date is April 24th. This is a different ball game altogether where the property gets sold in an auction. Just thought I'd just share with you. You can Google it or you can just go to the website and check it out though. Housing starts. Now the population of Ontario is still growing regardless. But if you look at the number of houses, what we need and what we are building, there's a huge, huge demand. There are a couple of things I'd like to share with you. Something about a little bit political. I usually don't talk about politics or religion, but today I'm going to talk a little bit about who could be the next prime minister and what would be bringing it on the table for real estate investors, so people like you. In my opinion, the capital gain raise from 50 to 66%. We will be discussing it with Sherry Hogenhout. He'll be happy to speak more about it. That will be off the table. Also, they are going to offer more incentives to builders and real estate investors. That'll be great. And the carbon tax is something which will not be paid by average Canadian, but it might be paid by the corporation. On the other hand, we will see the policies for next 2 months. You will be bombarded with all kind of information. Whatever you want to do, just look into it. The rentals in Canada rents are dropping quite a bit, by the way. I'll be sharing with you. Are you a wealthy Canadian? The rule of 4%, I discussed it last time. I'm not going to go too much into it, but we're going to move forward. There's something called 4% rule. So people are paying a lot of money to the banks, which they don't have to. There's one word we call consolidate your credit card payment into a household that into first mortgage. You might be shocked. If you have $8,000 owing on the credit card, you will be paying about $250 each month minimum, and you will be paying about over $5,000 in interest alone. And there's a way of doing it. Speak to your mortgage broker. You consolidate it. Make sure you don't carry any debt on the credit card or car lease payments or anything which is at your higher interest rate. So what's going to happen if the tariffs kicks in? Well, this is going to be something, the interest rate will definitely go lower. We might going to hit the recession or close to recession. We could lose a lot of jobs, but based upon what is happening right now, things are changing hourly. Now, the electricity tariff, which was supposed to go from Doug Ford to US, is being on hold, and now they're meeting on Thursday as well. We'll talk more about it. So what is happening to the interest rates? In Japan, it's half a point, US 4.5, Russia is 41%, Turkey is 42.5, Canada is 3, and now it might be going to come to 2.75 or 2.50 tomorrow. So just imagine that we run very close to US and European Union, but Japan is one of its own kind of a game. So David Grossman is on holidays, so we will not be able to talk much about it. It's going to be all depending upon the bond real rate. The rates for 5 years has came to 3.99 for 5-year fixed, by the way, because of the bond market. And when he's back, we'll be talking more about him as well. Ontario real estate is brutal. A lot of people losing lots of money because they bought at the top end of the market. And a lot of Canadians look at the properties in Guelph, Brampton, Oakville, and Bowmanville. This is the loss on the purchase price, plus all the closing costs, plus realtor fees. They are substantial losses, by the way. Calgary. Those who are from Calgary, here are some figures. Sales are down by 20%. New listings are up. I just thought I should just share with you if you're not taking a picture of it. Here is the market in Vancouver, by the way. Vancouver and Toronto more or less run very much parallel, by the way. And again, there is a bit of a decline in price, but not much of it though. When it comes to Toronto, this is the price, and this is we look at it from April of 2022, say March, and it has gone quite a bit down and came back slightly, and it's going back, and we're going to follow it. And Randy Goodman will be enlightening us where the market is going. Sales are down by 27%, but she's going to give us more information as we go along. And without going any further, I'd like to introduce my sister, Randy Goodman. She is the 11 times international bestseller. Randy, it's all yours.
Randy, you're better looking than your picture.
Thank you, my brother. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Okay. So, how will tariffs impact the real estate market? Well, the U.S. trade war has intensified, with the U.S. imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian goods and a 10% tariff on energy products. Canada has responded with equivalent retaliatory measures, escalating economic tensions. Tariffs on essential materials like glass, appliances, and metals are driving up expenses for builders, potentially affecting housing affordability. The trade conflict raises the risk of a recession, which could reduce housing starts and dampen consumer confidence. In response to the escalating trade tensions, economists at BMO anticipate that the Bank of Canada will implement quarter-point interest rate cuts at its next 4 meetings, potentially lowering the policy rate to 2% by July. David's not here, but he could have added to this, of course, for us. While the housing market faces challenges due to increased costs and economic uncertainty, anticipated interest rate cuts may provide some relief. Industry leaders continue to advocate for measures such as removing GST on new homes and reducing development taxes to support housing affordability. With the U.S. government placing tariffs on Canadian exports to the U.S., the Canadian government is retaliating with the threat of its own tariffs on U.S. exports to Canada, which, of course, today we heard that they backed down on some of it, on the energy anyway. Tariffs are taxes on imports. They increase the price consumers and businesses pay for goods and services. Tariffs affect spending, trade flows, government revenue, exchange rates, employment, gross domestic product, and inflation. If the tariffs remain for months, it will have a devastating impact on the Canadian economy, and the new home and condo market will continue with a severe lack of sales. U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods significantly increase construction costs in Canada by raising the price of imported building materials like steel, lumber, glass, and appliances, leading to potential project delays, strained profit margins, and ultimately higher housing prices for consumers. These tariffs would also cause less confidence for developers to launch new projects due to the uncertainty in budgeting for building costs. Since tariffs impact both U.S. and Canadian consumers with higher prices and inflation, it is in both countries' best interest to minimize tariffs. The tariffs could prompt an economic slowdown and lead to decreased investment in residential real estate. The development market already deals with low margins, high interest rates, and high input costs. Then you add dramatic trade tariffs in, and you have a very nerve-wracking situation. An increase in the cost of construction materials would raise Canadian home prices at a time when the sector is already struggling to keep up with rising costs due to inflation. Input costs for materials such as lumber rose during the pandemic and never returned to pre-COVID levels. It's been said, when you start making Canadian products less of interest to other markets like the US, it reduces production because buying markets have decreased outside of Canada. Then the cost of domestic sales go up. Potential retaliatory tariffs could also play a role in making housing more expensive, noting around $20 billion in Canadian steel and aluminum products are sent south of the border per year. When two-way tariffs on a broad range of construction materials beyond steel and aluminum, like cement, gypsum, and lumber, drive up costs, it could make any construction project unviable. Builders can build homes, but they would have to build them at an affordable price. The side effects of Trump's 2025 tariffs could transform the Canadian real estate landscape. Here's a breakdown of the potential outcomes. With the construction costs increasing, expect higher prices for newly built homes and possibly renovated properties. This will trickle down to homeowners and renters. Delays in material imports could cause shortages affecting both new builds and maintenance projects. Fewer homes will be built. Investors might hold off on projects due to uncertainty and around material costs and market fluctuations. Rising costs of homes could push mortgage rates higher, making homeownership less affordable for many. If they lower the interest rates, as some expect, that will help owners in a positive way. Higher construction costs may limit new rental developments, potentially driving up rents for both commercial and residential spaces. With potential slowdowns in development, there could be a shift towards existing home purchases, raising competition in the pre-owned home market. Lower export revenues, job losses, higher inflation, a greater risk of recession, and reduced immigration or slower population growth will also lower economic activity. For real estate investors, the path forward is a delicate balancing act. On the one hand, rising home prices could lead to slower demand as potential buyers are squeezed out by escalating costs. On the other hand, Those already holding properties could see their assets appreciate as supply tightens and the competition for limited homes intensifies. The possibility of heading into a recession is always there in these types of situations. If that happens, there will be fewer housing starts as well as fewer buyers. The tariff impact for residential buyers are affordability concerns, flexible financing options, budget planning. For residential sellers, market price dynamics, an anticipated increase in construction costs may lead to higher home prices, creating favorable conditions for sellers who list their properties before the market fully adjusts. Then we have inventory scarcity and timing considerations. And for residential investors, financing costs and yield impacts, investors in rental properties should monitor the potential for rate cuts to reduce financing costs or rate holds that could drive borrowing costs higher. Long-term market fundamentals. Toronto's residential market is supported by strong underlying demand and a diverse economic base. Risk mitigation, diversification, and careful portfolio management will be essential to navigate the uncertainties posed by the new tariff environment. Monitoring economic indicators and market trends. If you're one to watch key indicators in the market, then attention should be given to the following that have a direct effect on the market, like inflation data, bond yields, employment reports, and trade policy developments. By tracking these indicators, market participants can better anticipate shifts in mortgage rates and home prices, allowing for more informed decision making. David, again, would be a great person to discuss with on this topic. Housing starts, so to the market stats, housing starts will slow down from 2025 to 2027, mainly due to fewer condominium apartments being built, but total starts will remain above their 10-year average. Rental apartment construction will remain high, but may slow in 2027 as demand eases. Ground-oriented homes like detached, semi-detached, and row homes may recover slightly, especially in more affordable options like row houses. Rental markets are expected to ease with higher vacancy rates, slowing rent growth, and renter affordability will improve gradually with more noticeable changes happening later in the forecast period. Home buyers continue to benefit from substantial choice in the Greater Toronto Area resale market in February 2025. Home sales last month were down in comparison to the same period last year, while listing inventory remained high, providing substantial negotiating power for home buyers. GTA Realtors reported just over 4,000 home sales through TREB in February, which is down by 27.4% compared to February 2024. And new listings amounted to just over 12,000, which was up by 5.4% year over year. And February sales were down month over month compared to January 2025. And that's it for my report.
All right. Thank you, Randy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Now, once again, Randy, we got cell number. You got the picture right in front of you. randygoodman.com is her website, and we'll be talking to her again next month. Moving forward, the next one is bankruptcies. We mentioned last time already. Now we're going to bring our attorney or a lawyer, Jyoti Chaudhary. She's the lawyer from India, UK, and Canada. So she has a lot of diversified experience. And Jyoti is all yours.
Thank you, Navtaj, for giving me the opportunity to speak. It's going to be a short presentation today because there is so much uncertainty. It's so difficult to, predict what exactly is going to happen. But, the whole world is speaking about tariffs, Trump, and that's the only topic going around. So I guess some amount of prediction is required. So just like all the other fields, tariffs will have an indirect effect on lawyers and the provision of legal services. It can indirectly affect lawyers through increased costs for clients, potentially leading to more disputes over contract terms and employment issues, and increased demand for legal advice on trade and international law. So, as if we didn't have enough of disputes on contracts and employment law, we are going to see an increase. So, the direct impact on clients and businesses uh, is that the tariffs which are taxed on imported goods can increase the cost of goods and services for businesses and consumers. And it can disrupt international trade and supply chains, leading to delays, higher costs, and potential shortages. And like I mentioned earlier, there will be contractual disputes. So businesses may seek legal advice to navigate contractual disputes arising from tariff related issues such as price adjustments, force majeure clauses, and breach of contract. Tariffs could also lead to layoffs, reduced working hours, or changes in employment terms, potentially resulting in wrongful dismissal claims. Now, this is more or less the direct effect. Now, if you look at the indirect impact on lawyers, it would be increased demand for legal advice. Lawyers specializing in trade, international law, and employment law may see an increase in demand for the services as businesses navigate the complexities of tariffs. And there would also be need for contract review and negotiations. Lawyers will be needed to review and negotiate contracts to address tariff related risks, including price adjustments, allocation of responsibility for tariffs, and dispute resolution mechanisms. There is also the chance of increased litigation. Disputes arising from tariffs, such as those related to contract interpretation, breach of contract, or wrongful dismissal, could lead to more litigation. Then you have the Legal Aid of Ontario, which is a body that provides legal services at reduced rates. But even legal aid has been increasing the hourly and block fee rates for roster lawyers. And this is a new investment in improving hourly compensation for Ontario roster lawyers in nearly a decade. So I guess they're preparing for more work and more disputes and more litigation. So they're increasing the rate for their roster of lawyers. And as I said earlier, there is a potential for wrongful dismissal claims. So employers exploiting tariffs as a pretext for termination could face significant legal consequences, potentially leading to wrongful dismissal claims and severance payments. So you might have employers who are going to use the tariffs as an excuse to, either lay off employees or reduce the severance payments, and that's going to lead to a lot of litigation as well. Lastly, I would like to say lawyers will need to stay informed about evolving trade policies and regulations, including tariffs, quotas, and other trade barriers. So there's a lot of learning for lawyers to do to handle this amazing situation that is evolving right now. I hope that was a very concise summary of what one could expect, and we can speak on each topic. Each topic by itself is a very lengthy topic, and it could be dealt with in other webinars.
All right. Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you so much for your time and giving us a perfect advice. Here are a couple of questions for all of you. Now, if you're going to buy a new home, the builder may gonna insert a new clause. You're gonna say, well, I might have to raise the price because I'm getting supplies from the US and there'll be tariff. And that might be a bit of gray area. We will see as we go along. It's gonna go vice versa in almost every industry. But again, we're gonna stay on hold until these things are practically put in practice. But there's going to be a lot of surprises. But again, one thing for sure, There's going to be a dip in the market, and it will be a great time to buy. By the way, Warren Buffett had about $360 billion cash sitting down there and helping to catch up. I'm not too sure exactly what the current scenario is, but if you have some cash ready or if you are looking for opportunity to invest, that might be a window of opportunity from long time to come. Now we're going to be talking a little bit more about our taxes. This is the tax time, and the Canadians don't like it because we pay way too much taxes, approximately 43% of income, and we have a lot less money. For us to advise us, we are going to bring the specialist, one of a kind. He's licensed in 5 different separate regulated investment marketplaces, and he's a real estate investor himself. And tonight, he's going to be talking about the capital gain tax side, obviously dead in the water, or what is happening. Jerry, are you there?
I am.
Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to chat. Good to see everybody. Yes, taxes. So the capital gains, I'll give you a little update on that, as probably most people know, but I'll just refresh. But last year they introduced the what we call capital gain inclusion rate from 50% to 2/3, and that was to be effective June 25th last year. Meaning if you sold the property after that, any capital gain inclusion would be 2/3. And that was headed to become law. Parliament was stopped, so I think it got one reading, I believe, never passed into law. Then they prorogued Parliament. Then we come to basically into the new year. So that law was never passed, but CRA took the position that, well, you still have to include the 2/3 if you sold the property after June 25th. And that got all us accountants quite upset because that's actually illegal. It's not the law. You didn't pass it into law. You can't do that. So we tried to tell CRA how to do their job. And thank God they actually solved the problem by now deferring it. So it was about, I think, February that they made an announcement that that whole 2/3 capital gain is off the table for last year, 2024, and has been deferred to January 1, 2026. Those of us in the know, I don't think there's a hope in heck that thing gets passed. I think it's just a political bombshell. It was a horrible thing to introduce initially. And as Jonathan, I want to touch on what Jonathan said about all these Canadians. They're not just leaving Ontario, they're talking about leaving Canada. And that conversation, boy, oh boy, my practice, I'm just getting busier and busier in that part of the business as far as explaining to people what happens when they, they're contemplating leaving Canada. And that conversation really came up a lot at the time of that 2/3 capital gains inclusion. People have just had enough. Enough is enough. And you're pushing people over the brink. So again, I think you heard it here first. That thing will not come into law, and if it does, I'll be the first one out of here because that's just a horrible tax law. So lots of people talking about leaving Canada. It's amazing. I've had more conversations in the last year with clients than I have in the last 40 years. It's incredible. As some of you may know, we do a lot of business into the Dominican. The Canadian expat community in the Dominican is just increasing. So pretty strange what's going on. Canada is not the it's a great country if you can afford to live here. These tariffs. I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, the good thing is we're going to see those interest rates go down. The bond yields are going down. Music to my ears what Randy said. I mean, if we get 4 quarter-point drops in the next 4 meetings, wow, that's pretty good from an interest rate point of view. But you got a bunch of negative things going on. Inflation's going to go up at the same time that there'll be a recession because of all the price increases. Home prices are, they're gonna struggle. But the tariffs, you got to remember what tariffs are. They're a tax. And the government's been very quiet about all this newfound lottery money they're getting from these tariffs. I mean, in theory, our taxes should go down because they're getting so much more. I don't think Jonathan believes me.
I think you're on the money, brother. I think you're on the money.
They're supposed to, but they're not
Correct.
going to. So these governments are getting a huge windfall of money, and you still watch Trump's moves. I still say that guy, love him or hate him, he's 5 moves ahead of everybody. I don't know what his end result is. I guess he's true to his word. He wants to keep the jobs in Canada, but Jonathan, as you said, you raise the tariffs on one product, and it bites you in the butt on another product that you need. So who knows what happens? I have no idea. I hopefully sanity prevails, but there's a lot of uncertainty, and when there is uncertainty, people tend to just sit back on their money, wait, see what happens. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the multi-unit real estate space.
100%.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, the rates are coming down. The rental market just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. To me, with those interest rates, man, you could make some really good purchases in the next year or so. So I think that's a message to all of us real estate investors. Get connected, build your network, keep your eye out for those multi-unit properties, because we're all chasing them. We just got to be ahead of the curve. But yeah, other than that, so the good news is, don't worry about the 2/3 capital gain. You heard it here first. It's gone. It's going away. It'll never come back. So there you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Okay.
We're going to move forward. Where are the massive profits are? Whether we like it or not, flips going to exist. Whether you like it or not, families can be turned into 5 units in GTA. Same thing in Vancouver and other areas. There's a huge opportunity. Typically, in 2019, people have bought a piece of property in Toronto, detached it for 1.2, fixed it nicely, upgraded, and sold it for 3 million, turned around 13 months. Profit is approximately, gross profit is 1.8, but it's still good, a way of making money, as long as you can afford it, as long as you know what you're doing. But regardless, anywhere in Toronto, there are some areas where the city allows you to build up to 6 units. And those who are interested in it, they can learn more about it. We will talk perhaps more in the next meeting or so. So here is a situation in Canada. Where are the prices are across Canada? Average house price 670,000. Prices are slightly down. And if you can see it, I have just given more or less all the major cities across Canada. And this is the update of the market activity. What is happening? Sales are down, and what the listings are up. And this is more or less the story, except Quebec. And again, if you look at even Alberta, the listings are substantially higher, especially in Calgary, it's about 19%. And as we look at Fraser Valley, Vancouver, 25, pretty high. So again, there is an element of buyers sitting on the fence waiting for what will happen next. Just thought I'd just share with you. So rentals are going up like crazy. There are about over 10,000 properties available in GTA alone. And all those investors, the landlords offering this sweetheart deal to attract good tenants. And they're offering all kind of incentives. So if you're looking for a rental, it's a good time to negotiate. And perhaps you might be able to get the apartment of your choice or condo. A lot of condos, the landlords or the investors are really, really hurting. There's several different tax saving strategies we have. Even if you have a negative cash flow, it can become a great opportunity for you to have a humongous tax refund for next 5 years, 10 years, as long as you have a plan or goal to hold on to the property for next 10 to 15 years. There could be huge, huge, huge strategies which can be implemented. We will be sharing with you most probably in the next couple of meetings though. Abandoned properties right here in Markham. A lot of builders have gone what? Into trouble, cash flow, painful. This is a beautiful piece of property in Markham Road. I'm sorry, in Markham, in Kennedy and 14th. The builders start building 14 or 15 units. And again, 22 February happened. Markets start crashing. Don't forget, builders still have to pay for it. Developers still have to pay for it. Now, this piece of property is back in the market for $6 million. You can finish this 515 condos, and they may gonna sell for 1.2 to 1.5, but the market is fairly soft. Even though this is a good area, high demand, but a lot of builders, the prices of the new houses have dropped by 20% in last 3 years. Just thought I should just let you, but this is under power sale or foreclosure. It's halfway through and the builder is gone into financial difficulty. Winnipeg, the most dangerous city. About the Calgary. Now, this is based upon pretty scary numbers. And people talk about Toronto or other places. If you look at per capita, the crime is slightly different. Again, it's all based upon the drugs, alcohol, and some other stuff with gangs to so on. And this is sad, but again, it's there. We should be aware of it. If you're going to invest it, stay away from the high crime area. You're going to find great bargains, but they're not worth it. It's not good for you. It's not good for your tenants, period. And we have
especially if your tenant turns out to be the criminal.
Well, it's unfortunately poverty and drugs bring the worst of humans, unfortunately. I can skip this one. These are some of the pre-construction condos. The builders are coming up with, hey, listen, you know, we sold the condo for 2.2, appraisals coming for 1.6. We will co-sign it to get a mortgage on 2.2 million. And this is called blanket appraisal. Now, not everybody's going for it. Say, listen, I'm already in the hole for 800,000 or 600,000. Why should I put myself again in the same grind and lose more money? Because it's going to have negative cash flow. The builder are saying, listen, if you don't close, we're going to come after you. This is like catch 22. What would you do? So a lot of people are doing not proceeding as per agreement. And this is going to create what? A lot of lawsuits. It's not good for anybody, including the builders, though. Is that Quebec is brink of a humongous boom? Absolutely. Believe it or not, Quebec market is booming like crazy. Now, mention those of you who are not aware, there is something I've written about stink offer. These are the lowball offers. If you Google it, check it out. There's a little video on it, how to do it, what kind of property you should be throwing a stinky bid, or I call stinky bid, lowball offer. And great, owner finance is 0%. Why not? Go for it. A lot of pre-construction condos, lots of them in Toronto and again in Vancouver. These are the two areas where, you know, the land is way too expensive, and so are the levies and development charges. Very painful. And those people think they're developers and builders are making a lot of money. Not all the time, but this is now a tough time for builders for the last 3 years. And a lot of them are putting on hold, putting on the brakes, saying not to build. The costs are gone way too high. BC have introduced a flipping tax. If you keep a property for less than 2 years, they're going to tax you. Or they're going to, there are 2 years of 730 days in case something happened due to family or so. There are some exceptions though. But again, that's on a provincial level. It's not on a federal level. Cashback realtors, they are all along. Realtors are hurting. They are willing to share the commission with you. There are a lot of brokers out there who are willing to share the commission and they say cashback. So a bunch of brokers are known for it. Be aware of it. That if you are getting a full service or half the service, or talk to Randy Goodman or somebody you know, talk to your realtor, and see whatever they can offer you. Moving forward, oh boy, Edmonton, I love it. You can get a building permit in 1 day. Try it in Toronto. Forget about it. Within 1 day, they got AI, artificial intelligence, to auto review the program. And it's great, even though property values are not the highest, but Edmonton is still a very affordable city. You can still buy a detached house for about less than about 400,000, which is 1/3 of the value. But again, the quality of it's a different type of thing. It's a winter. Winter's pretty long down there, but the rents are reasonable. You can still have positive cash flow properties in Edmonton compared to Calgary. Just thought I should share with you. Those who are looking for a little coaching, 15 to 30 minutes, just give us a call on WhatsApp. We'll book a session and we'll take it from there. Okay, rents are dropping by 10% all across Canada. And one has to be very careful. You get a good tenant, keep them on, keep them happy. If you have reduced even the rent to keep a good tenant, it's okay. But keep the rents and give them some sort of incentive that if they pay the rent, you're gonna give them a rebate or something. But you make sure you whatever the guidelines are based upon the province, you make sure you increase the rent accordingly. Rents have dipped about 24% in 2020, but here is two way of looking at it. Rents went up dramatically by 24% in 4 years, 2020 to 2024. But now they're dipping, but the dip is not as bad. If you still look at it, you're far, far ahead compared to where it could have been right now, because there are a lot of rental units available and things have changed. Hey, be aware where the market is going. All right, moving forward with this thing. If you're going to buy a piece of property, again, one of the best rules, in my opinion, people will not agree with me, 2033 rule, 20% down, and make sure that you do not spend more than 30% of your gross income, and the total price of the house shall not be more than 3 times your income. Again, these are the great golden rules. So it may not apply to all of you. I've written many different strategies about it, but today I just thought I'd share one or two of them. 70% rule, if you are flipping a piece of property, make sure that you are getting it at a reasonable price. It should be after repair value. You should be aware of it. What will be the repair value? You have to do a proper due diligence. You have to do the criminal check of the property and check with the structure. Make sure you have more than one inspection, because people, you're buying old houses, you're not sure if you can get asbestos or you're going to get something else. The moment you start opening up, you're opening a can of worm. You have no idea what you're going to get into. Renovating an older house is not easy. It can be very expensive. Getting a building permit, that's another part of it. If you are adding up a legal unit, perfect. There is a grant available for $80,000 at 2% for 15 years from the federal. It is through CMHC program, by the way. If you're adding it up, 80,000, 2% interest, 15 years. That's a great program, courtesy of your taxpayers' money. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is 1816. We're going to skip this one. If you can buy a piece of property and the rent, you can multiply by 8, and that's the purchase price. That's the best property, as long as it's in a good neighborhood. You can go up to 16, but depend if it's a prime location, though. Is this going to be cash flow? It's going to be a steal or a sinkhole? A rabbit hole, you don't call it, where you're going to sink a lot of money in. Nothing going to come out of it. Rental business is not for the way people think. There are a lot more hidden expenses. People never going to disclose it to you. Unless once you start running the business, then you realize, every month you're going in red. But there is different ways, techniques. And make sure, one of the hint came from Jerry again, I'm going to share with you. Your rental income shall not ever be added into your personal taxes. Talk to Jerry Hogenhout or talk to your CPA. Why do you want to pay 50% tax on the rental income? There's a different strategy altogether. Why not pay almost zero? And there are techniques to it, and then you create multiple source of income, and again, doing everything legally, morally, ethically, with full disclosure to CRA, with the advice of your lawyer and the CPA as well. So moving forward, 1% rule, that is the old rule. Again, there are some properties available. Saskatchewan is still a pretty good area to invest into it. Again, wherever you're going to invest, make sure that you have the capital, you have emergency fund for 6 months, you know what you're doing. Don't try to save nickel and dime, ever, please. Every piece of property you buy, make sure you get a 1, 2, or 3 different specs. Cost what, $2,000? Who cares? Because you will find to replace a boiler, to change the roof, it's a nightmare for multi-units. And if you notice that every rental building has some bad tenants, and they could be a nightmare trying to kick them out or try to even collect their rent. So be aware of it. If you have a good, strong management team, you have vetted your tenants thoroughly. Don't try to save nickel or dime, trying to do everything your own. It's not your cup of tea. Have a very strong team, more experienced people. The more experience they have, if they are in the business, they will guide you. It'll be very helpful for you. So, about what should we do in these times? Well, here is the good old formula. If you want to try it, especially for next 3 or 4 years, or even now, when there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, where you should be spending your paycheck. 20% into saving, 30% to wants, and 50% the needs. If you go with that budget, you have some sort of I would say, emergency fund saved up for you. Things are gonna change. Things are gonna shake and bake a couple of times in this next 4 years' time while Trump is in the office. And I believe a lot of good things are gonna come out of it every time this thing happens. We look at it as an opportunity time. Now, if you are getting yourself educated, getting the information from the right sources, not from the YouTube or whatever you see on the internet, there will be a lot of opportunities out there. Now, one of the best things is about your RSP, TFSA, if you're going to invest it. There could be long-term gains as well. There are opportunities where you can become a joint venture partners, but be aware of it. Who are you partnering up with? Don't try to save any shortcut. Don't rush into it. Again, the greed is going to invite all the scammers. People will come in, invest in my project, you know nothing about it. Please look at all the facts and take advice from 3 or 4 different people before you jump in. Again, Canadian investors, they have tons of money to earn and they have tons of money to give it out. Now, what happened is majority of Canadians don't realize it. There are about 5 different places where we lose most of money. Number 1 are the taxes. Number 2 are the interest to the mortgage, interest toward the credit cards, line of credits, car leases. And then we have insurance and other expenses. We need to review them quite often. And real estate investment requires definitely financial education. You need to have a good coach behind you. You need to have a good team to become very successful, right? Warren Buffett said, you know what? There's no such thing as risk-free. Educate yourself, gain experience, understand the investment thoroughly, take full control, and continue learning. We have a lot of great people here. Jonathan Weaver, you like to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think people understand the value you've just shared, right? I mean, you are, showing a quick slide and talking about ratios and making sure that things fit. I sometimes think when you give it, you give this information for free, you give this information willingly. I'm not sure people are paying attention to, how important it is. For example, you were talking about rent, and I think Randy, the good news is I know that Randy tends to work in the higher end market. And the neat part is the higher the rent, the less headache you're going to have. the person who can barely afford to pay rent at, in a cheap place is going to be it's going to be an expensive problem. Uh, I've personally had I mean, my investment experience in Toronto was we bought a triplex first, a duplex second, a sixplex third. Uh, and what I found was my wife had the best advice at all. And that was, if you're willing to live in your worst unit, you're pretty protected. And the perfect example for us was when we bought the first triplex. I said to my wife, we're going to borrow $635,000. And she said, what? I mean, our house is only worth $3 and we don't have any. Why would we do that? And I said, well, look at the vacancy rate. And I think that's one of the things, that people don't talk about is if the vacancy rate is incredibly low, your risk is pretty low, right? I mean, because vacancy is horrible, right? So I said, if one of our tenants doesn't pay, then we'll just pay we'll pay 2/3 of the mortgage payment and at least stay, current as far as we paid again this month. And, we'll pay penalties and worst case scenario, that's what we'll do. And I said, well, actually, in a very worst case scenario, we'll sell our $300,000 house and move into the, whatever apartment is vacant, and preferably the worst one. Because the higher rents, we'll live free in that building instead of the house we already own, free and clear. So I think there are a number of ways when you talk about mitigating risk. There are lots of things someone can do to make it pragmatic to be a real estate investor. And I know I've known Randy for what now, Randy, 20 years?
A long time.
Yeah. So I met her when she was a teenager. And
She's still a teenager. She's still 16, my friend. She refused to grow.
So but Randy, you know this better than me, that there are careful things you can do in the selection process when you're buying a property, and it's not buying the cheapest property. It's about buying the best property to fit your investment goals. And so sometimes it pays to pay more for a building if it comes with the cash flow you're looking for, if it comes with the opportunity for upside, if it comes for, you know what I mean? And I look at the advice that Navtash has shared today, and like I looked at a couple of those slides quickly and went, that's real math, right? I mean, I never bought a property that didn't cash flow. Or would cash flow the moment that the deficiency was fixed. I happen to like buying broken stuff, right? When I look at, I'm in the land lease business. The interesting thing is, I think I've hedged my bet because my clients buy the unit and then pay me a land lease, so they all have something to lose, right? If they don't pay me, I'm not panicky, because when we'll get our money back when foreclosure takes place and we get the equity out of their house. So I mean, we're going to get paid back. And I think there are a number of circumstances, Nav, that you show people that they don't always, that they go, it's just one of 37 things Nav's done, but some of them are really quite risk averse. If you look at it from a proper perspective.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your input. Appreciate it. Once again, we strongly believe in renting to ultra luxury rentals, which is not average rentals. You want to choose the renters who pay highest amount of money for the luxury. And sometimes the difference between average and the luxury is not that much, by the way. Having a fireplace, having a dishwasher, having a heated flooring, and a couple of other little things can make a humongous difference. The rent goes up, and one of my principles, as I always say, I love to rent out fully furnished units, providing them first-class facilities. And they pay for it, and these are the different type of tenants. And collect a lot more money and a lot less headache. And you collect the money weekly basis, not monthly. And again, that's my input. We're going to wrap up right here, right now, because we promised to finish in an hour. And we will be speaking to you on next month on second Tuesday of the month. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. And take care. And see you in April. Have a very
Take
good
care.
day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nav.
Good night.